back in 2017, when we were still dreaming of having a house in the mountains, Tammy and I went to the Colorado Log Expo, and we left with one very important lesson. Stay away from log homes. Log homes are a serious pain in the butt. Settling, shrinking, sealing, chinking, bugs, leaks, rot. Don't buy a log home. Fast forward to 2019 and we bought a log home. If you don't keep your log home sealed and chinked, the Colorado sun and Colorado winters will absolutely destroy the logs. And as you can see, our logs were in desperate need of some love. Before we even bought the place, I had a log rehab company come out and give us an estimate. Their bid was about $10,000 more than our entire renovation budget.
What?
I knew how important it was to get the job done, so I asked them if they could just do the worst wall and then save the rest for later. No dice. All or nothing.
What?
So, nothing. The logs would just have to wait. Early in 2020, we went back to the Colorado Log Expo, but this time I was desperate to find a log service company that we could afford. I met the owner of a company who was familiar with our plight. He came out and he gave us a bill that was a few $1,000s less than what we had seen before, and more importantly, he said we could split the job up and do one wall per year. Now that we could do. That spring, a crew came out and gave the south wall, which was in the worst shape, a lot of love. And it looks awesome. But it did really emphasize how much the rest of the house needed to be done. Now in 2021, mortgage rates took a dive and we were advised that we should refinance our house. And man, it was great advice. Not only did our payments go down just a little bit, we were able to take out enough money to refinish 3 walls of the house. All at one time! I called up my log guy and got us on the schedule. His crew came out a few weeks later when we still had a lot of snow on the ground. The first step in the log rehab is to sandblast down to raw wood. Now they're not actually using sand, it's something biodegradable like crushed walnut shells or something. But the important thing is they're getting rid of any of the old stain and sealant so that they have a blank slate. And yes, it is just as dirty and dusty of a job as you would think. Now when your logs are as bad as ours were, the walls are actually drafty and the blasting sand can find its way into the house. So they put plastic over the worst areas, like here in our front room. Gee, I wonder why we can't keep this house warm. You think the walls are a little drafty, huh? Now after the logs are blasted, the next step is to sand them smooth. This is the longest and most labor-intensive part of the job. And the loudest. This went on for 4 days. But once it's done, you've got fresh logs ready to stain. And a huge mess. Next, the logs are stained and sealed. This is when you first start to see your new house emerge from the mess. Finally, the last step is to caulk in between the logs. Now, I know I was saying chinking before, and that's the word most people think of, but it's not really what they do anymore. Chinking is how they did it in the old days. It was much thicker and it wasn't flexible. Caulk, on the other hand, is flexible, so it can handle when the logs expand and contract with temperature. Caulk is a much better way to seal up the gaps in the logs. And I have to say, after watching this crew using wet sponge brushes to get the caulk exactly smooth and in all of the little cracks, it is an absolute art form, and I am so glad I paid for a professional to get it done. The logs are done, and the old crooked house looks like a shiny new penny. And better yet, when we have a real cold snap, the house stays warmer. Well, before, when it was single digits outside, the living room would be in the 50s and the kitchen would be in the 40s. We still need to get some newer windows and doors to really keep the cold out, but you'll just have to subscribe to see how that goes. We'll see you next time.